In 1999, the World Trade Organization met in Seattle. It encountered a level of resistance never seen before against an entity of economic globalization. Tens of thousands of activists showed up from across North America and around the world to shut the meeting down and fight the machine of capitalism. And they succeeded. Donalda Viaud, a member of the Vancouver and District Labour Council, attended these protests. There she encountered the Seattle Labor Chorus, which had formed in 1997. They were widely seen throughout the demonstrations, singing songs of solidarity with the protesters. Here's a clip of them shortly after they formed.
Everybody says freedom. Everybody says freedom. Go ahead.
The Seattle Labor Chorus had begun at Folk Life in Seattle in 1997, when Pete Seeger came to do a concert and announced he would only come if there were a labor chorus to sing with.
The labor chorus debuted at the Mural Amphitheater. There were 100 plus singers, and there were hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000 people in the audience. And that was fantastic. And there were other even larger events that happened where we filled the stadium. Never before in folk life history had we filled the stadium and had people waiting around, standing in line around the corner.
Donalda was so impressed with the Seattle Labor Chorus that she hatched the idea for a similar choir in Vancouver. The chair of the Vancouver and District Labour Council at that time was John Fitzpatrick, an irascible Scot with a fondness for the poet Robbie Burns. Donalda talked him and the rest of the VDLC into putting up a $2,000 loan to create what would become the Solidarity Notes. Vancouver musician and conductor Earle Peach was hired to direct the new choir.
I'd been hired to run music programs at Carnegie Center in 1984, and Donalda was my boss in 2000. So she invited me to take a crack at conducting the Solidarity Notes, because I'd already started conducting another couple of choirs. And it was an amazingly fun experience.
The choir was given a small room in the Maritime Labor Center for rehearsals. Donalda sent announcements to union offices through the VDLC newsletter, inviting people to sing labor songs together in preparation for March 8, 2000, International Women's Day. 22 singers showed up, and over the next few months they learned 4 songs to sing. One of those singers was Barbara Waldern.
I was very keen, and I had been involved in folk music scene a little bit, learned about the traditions of it, labor songs and so on. I was really keen that the gig coming up when I stepped in the year 2000 was the International Women's Day event. And I loved the song Bread and Roses, and it was just fabulous to learn that and to be able to perform at a big rally.
On International Women's Day of what year? Was it 2000? I was participating in a march, and I had been thinking for years, gosh, I wish I could find a place to sing the music that I used to listen to on all those Weavers albums that my parents had when I was a child and that I have inherited. And we walked along, and all of a sudden, up from the front of the line, I heard these voices singing a bunch of great, old, wonderful peace and justice and union songs. And my heart just flew up to the skies.
Following its positive reception, the choir decided to keep going. One of the songs it began to sing was When Tear Gas Fills the Sky, written by an activist named Desert Rat during the WTO protests. Solidarity Notes sang this song in 2005 outside the Maritime Labor Center. It's the earliest video of the choir.
The corporations rule, and they spin their lies and they globalize, and the workers are their tools. And the streams are so polluted that their banks are bleak and bare, and the babies all are
I was actively involved in the Vancouver District Labor Council meetings. When this, at the meeting at that point, it was in the big room, the old Maritime Labor Center, and in the middle, the choir actually came in the middle of where the tables were and sang, and I just thought this was the most amazingly wonderful egalitarian people's choir.
Policeman shoots me down, I'll be looking him in the eye, and I will wash their pepper from your face and go with you to jail. And if you don't make it...
One of the major roles of a labor choir is to support people on picket lines, and that's what the Notes began to do from day one.
When we went to sing for people on strike, those particularly grabbed me, because they were small groups and they were people who really, really, really appreciated us singing. And I felt their need, and it was just a really, really very compassionate kind of sharing.
The strikers on the picket line just seemed so moved by the fact that we were there that I kind of realized, wow, this actually makes a difference. It has an impact.
In July of the same year, the choir performed its songs about social justice and workers' rights at the Vancouver Folk Music Festival. After the folk festival, the Seattle Labor Chorus invited the Notes to join them at an event in San Francisco called the Western Workers Labor Heritage Festival later that year. 8 choir members went.
Heart-filling and enlightening and awakening and great. That was the first time I encountered the phrase prison industrial complex, and it blew my mind, opened my eyes.
Really experienced the fact that we were part of a very large movement with using culture to promote justice, that we had this a history that we wanted to share. We had a current iteration that we wanted to share, and we were creating a collective future.
The Solidarity Notes were introduced to major figures in labor song, like Anne Feeney, Joe Glazer, Pat Humphreys, and others. At the event, Earle also met Bonnie Weiss, a member of the Bay Area Paul Robeson Centennial Committee. Their conversation inspired Earle to plan a 50th anniversary Paul Robeson concert in 2002 at the Peace Arch on the U.S.-Canada border.
So in 1952, Paul Robeson gave a concert at the Peace Arch on a flatbed truck, and 40,000 people came. And it was a major snub to the House Un-American Activities Committee, which had confiscated his passport. And in 2002, a committee of people, including me, recreated that concert, and the Solidarity Notes participated. It was a pretty great event for us. The address that Robeson gave in 1952 was recreated by Danny Glover, and Ronnie Gilbert of the Weavers was there singing, and the Total Experience Gospel Choir, and the Seattle Labor Chorus, and the Jewish Folk Choir. And we had the original piano that was played in 1952 on a flatbed truck.
The Solidarity Notes recorded their first CD in 2002, over the course of a year. The CD release concert was held at the Unitarian Church on December 14, 2002. It was the first of many concerts the Notes would perform at the Unitarian Church. Another event that the Solidarity Notes participated in was a trip to Cuba in 2003.
All my life, I was reading in the newspapers, in the Gramma, or in the El Siglo of the left, the speeches of Fidel after the May Day or the 26th of July or all the celebration that they have. And suddenly, I was there in the Plaza de Revolution. Fidel was talking and I was seeing him, and there was 1 million people, and we were there.
You know, we had a tour where we met other choirs and learned songs and sang with them, which was totally fantastic. I'll never forget that. And we met the main labor union, and just traveling around the bus and seeing the countryside. It was just an excellent way to go. Yeah, so I really appreciate all the organizing that went into that, and it was totally worth it.
For many years, the choir manager was Regina Brennan, a Public Service Alliance activist who fought hard for equal pay for equal work within her union. Regina deeply loved the choir and worked hard to make it function.
I was impressed by this kind of presence, you know, of beneficent organization, I'll call it. She smiled a lot. She would rattle off a bunch of things that Soul Notes was doing, and generally had a very cheery disposition. At the same time, you know, giving the distinct impression of somebody who knew what she was talking about, and that there was good, sophisticated organizing going on, you know, along with that smile. That sometimes is a rare combination, I would think.
Regina died of cancer in 2016. In 2006, the Solidarity Notes were involved in a performance of the Cantata de Santa Maria de Iquique, written by Luis Advis Vitaglich in 1969 for the musical group Quilapayun in Chile. Blyth Nuttall, a choir director from Edmonton, arranged this gargantuan piece with traditional instruments and 2 narrators.
This monumental musical to remember that is the cantata Santa Maria of Iquique. And it said everything. It moved everybody and called the people to continue the organization, the class consciousness, and to fight for a better society.
The Chilean community in Vancouver came out for this event. It was performed twice, once in the Unitarian Church and once at the Peretz Schule, a center for secular Jewish culture in Vancouver. This established a long-standing friendship between the choir and the Chilean community, which continues today. The choir celebrated its 10th anniversary in style in 2010 with a concert in support of the CCDA, a Guatemalan coffee cooperative, which also featured performances from local Guatemalan folklore groups. The concert was hosted by local comedian and activist Charles Demers and raised $7,000 for the cooperative. In 2016, the Solidarity Notes split into 2 choirs, the Solidarity Notes Labor Choir and the Left Coast Labor Chorus.
That was a difficult situation. Many people had a lot of difficulty deciding which group to go with, and I'm very happy that we stayed with the Solidarity Notes and with Earle. I think that there has been a change in focus in the choir since then. I think that we still do picket lines, but for strikes and things like that, but the other choir has more of a labor focus, and it suits myself and Yvonne that our choir now has more of an environmental and social justice focus.
As are most such events, it was traumatic for everybody involved. However, everyone worked on maintaining good relations and there continues to be mutual respect between the two groups. In 2017, the Solidarity Notes began presenting a program of labor and activist songs in local schools.
We have put together a set of songs that we can perform for high school students, and it seems that we perform these in social justice classes, and so the students are kind of primed to be interested. And what we provide them, we hope and think, is a demonstration and description of how song has been used in nonviolent protest over centuries, and how it's used in nonviolent protest now.
They sent the monkeys to harass them and to throw them into jail. Disease and poverty led to despair.
And it was like having these kids, 16 years old, stepping out of their world and realizing that, whoa, the classroom is just one part of their life. The world is way bigger, and the problems are there, the solutions are there too. And we were singing about problems, and we were singing about solutions. And that was such an inspiration seeing my son here.
We share our native land. To protect this home, we share our native land.
Many people have come to the choir from many different starting places and have had profound experiences. Here are a few reflections, including my own.
I remember kind of belting out those lyrics about the criminals in pinstripe suits, just kind of picking off the wages of others, and yeah, I think just feeling the power of those sorts of lyrics, and yeah, this kind of way that people can respond to injustices in the world.
The politics that we were singing, or that the choir was singing and that I could now sing, was exactly what I was looking for. I like to sing for a purpose, and the politics were my purpose.
Just before we went on Christmas vacation in 2019, we sang a very short song, kind of a farewell song, just to because we were all going on vacation and we weren't going to see each other again for a little while. And then while we were singing that, everybody around me started crying. And I didn't even need to understand exactly why. It was just such a beautiful moment, and that really marked me.
I think there's been so many different ways that we've been supportive, sometimes in really big demonstrations. The Olympic stuff was very important, I think, because it was very immediate. And we were there with other choirs as well. We were there as part of a support network of music, which I really liked a lot. I also really liked it when we went down to Oppenheimer Park one night in the rain, because someone from the Carnegie Community Action Project asked us to come and sing, and we came, and they offered us food, and we sang in the rain for a little bit, and then we went home, and we brought with us, sort of fresh socks and blankets and that kind of thing.
Stuff against the pipeline in the more initial stages up Burnaby Mountain and at the Westridge Park there, right? It gives me a feeling that we're actually having some impact on furthering the cause.
I believe it was 2006, the school strike about class size and inclusions, and it was November, and it was incredibly foggy, and I was doing the 7 o'clock slot in the morning, and I was picketing at the school board office, and you guys turned up out of the fog and cold, and sang 3 or 4 songs. And I remember I said, "Who are you guys and how can I join?" Because it just changed the entire mood of the place, and I'd never heard of you before then. So that's when I started.
We were singing the Internationale in several languages, as I remember. And as we got up, we were dispersed around the room, as you do at a pop-up. And as I walked toward the front from my position in the back, I noticed that members of our audience were singing with us. And my heart flooded with, I don't know, love, solidarity, something, enthusiasm. And that has happened several times since, when the people that we're singing to join with us and let us know that they know our songs and they appreciate our presence. It's very moving.
One of our last gigs was at a cemetery for Japanese people who had left the island and never returned when the Canadian government incarcerated them in concentration camps. There were so many people in the crowd who were weeping at that particular event, and several people in the choir around me were gulping up, tearing up, and even the conductor had a tear in the corner of his eye. It was wonderful to be sharing that with that spirit with the crowd and within ourselves, and the whole coming together as a union was very emotionally satisfying, and gave us a better insight, I think, in how the people must have felt who had lived there and were never able to come back again.
The very first song we sang in that rehearsal was May the Work That I Have Done. And so I've got the music, the lyrics in front of me, and I'm kind of stumbling along. And, you know, I don't think we were 25 seconds in. You know, may the work that I have done speak for me. When I run my final race, someone else will take my place. And by verse 2, like, I was having such a visceral experience. Like, honestly, it's from the tip of my toes through my body to be singing those words in this room full of people and making this music. And I actually thought it probably showed. I thought I probably had goosebumps all over, and I looked around and no, everybody's just singing, doing their own thing. But I felt like something moved through me, and I was home. I was like, this is where I need to be. And, you know, in the 6 or 7 years, there have been repeated experiences like that, both at rehearsal, at various protests we've sung at memorials we've sung at for longtime social justice lawyers. And it just feels like a perfect blending of politics and art.
I went to a demo shortly after Donald Trump was elected, and there were, I think, 10,000 people there. It was a women-centered demonstration because he had shown his attitude towards women. And so I was there on my own and just kind of looking around and being there. And I heard music, like singing. And so I followed my ear and I came to the Solidarity Notes choir. And I was just so moved to hear the music. And then somebody handed me some music and said, "You can join in."
We shall overcome. We shall overcome.
COVID times are tricky. I hope that we can start going to events and demonstrations again, and I hope that demonstrations start forming again, because I think there's just too much going on in the world to ignore right now, and I do think there's a way to do it at a safe distance. So yeah, I would like to kind of get started back up this fall.
We got to find a way to keep this alive. It's really, really important. It's not just singing for the sake of singing. So any gigs that, you know, and that's why picket lines and that kind of stuff are really a godsend, because that's kind of typical for us. We've sung in the rain and the snow and all kinds of stuff. And so I want to know about those gigs, and I'll be there. I'll be all bundled up, but I would love to sing.
The Solidarity Notes has now been singing for 20 years and doesn't intend to stop. We have only started.
We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have only started. We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have only started. Together we'll have victory. Hand holding hand. Hand holding hand. Hand holding hand. Together we'll have victory. Hand holding hand. Hand holding hand. Hand holding hand. Never ever put to fight. We're bound to win. We're bound to win. We are bound to win. Never ever put to fight. We're bound to win. We're bound to win. We are bound to win. We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have only started. We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have only started. We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have only started. We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have